The Interstellar Medical Academy floated like a shining star station above a quiet blue world. It was one of the most respected places in the galaxy, where students from many species came to study healing. To walk inside its long silver halls was to hear 1,000 voices, each speaking in different tones, all united by a single dream: to save lives. Among these voices, the alien students prepared for the start of a new term. Tall beings with crystal-like bodies glided beside smaller creatures that resembled feathered lizards. Some students buzzed with insect wings, while others walked with heavy steps on thick legs. Each of them had grown up in safe, carefully controlled environments where even a small injury was rare. To them, medicine was not just science, but ceremony. Healing was delicate. Mistakes were unthinkable. The first day of classes always brought whispers of new arrivals. But this year, the whispers were louder than ever. A human was joining them. Is it true? One feathered alien asked, its wings twitching nervously. Yes, another answered. From Earth, a Deathworlder. The word carried weight. To the rest of the galaxy, Earth was infamous. It was called a death world because it was filled with storms, predators, poisonous plants, and dangerous landscapes. Other species studied Earth only through records and sensors. Few dared to visit. Yet somehow, humans not only lived there, they thrived. So when Alex Carter, a human exchange student, stepped into the academy, every eye turned toward him. He was tall by galactic standards, though not the largest. His steps were calm, his uniform plain, and his expression friendly. He smiled at the others, but the alien students only whispered more. Look at his skin. No scales or armor. How does such a fragile being survive? Deathworlders are reckless. That is what I heard. Alex pretended not to notice the stares. He had known this would happen. Ever since he left Earth, he had felt like a stranger in every starport and shuttle. Too many aliens, humans were like dangerous myths, wild creatures wearing polite smiles. Still, he had come to learn, and he was determined not to let prejudice stop him. The first class was held in a wide medical hall. Transparent walls showed the stars beyond, and smooth white tables carried neat rows of equipment. The instructor, an ancient being with a crystalline body, welcomed the students. His voice echoed like a bell. Today, the instructor said, we begin with the basics of wound care. A simple scratch, though small, can become deadly if not treated with care. Watch closely. On the table lay a model arm, grown from safe tissue. The instructor raised one sharp tool and made a shallow line across the surface. A thin line of green fluid appeared. The students gasped. Even the sight of a small wound made some of them uncomfortable. The instructor worked slowly. He cleaned the wound with glowing liquid, waited for sensors to confirm sterility, applied a gel, and sealed the scratch with a flexible band. The process took several long minutes. Every student watched with serious faces. Nodding at each careful step, cleanliness above all, the instructor reminded them, never rush. To rush is to invite infection and death. The alien students whispered agreement. They understood. On their worlds, infections were feared even more than predators. Alex, however, tilted his head. He raised an eyebrow as if confused. When the demonstration ended, the instructor asked, does anyone have questions? Several hands and claws rose. Aliens asked about the thickness of the band, the exact sterilization time, the chemical mix of the gel. The instructor answered each patiently. Then Alex raised his hand. His voice was calm, but curious. Excuse me, Professor, but this was just a scratch, right? The instructor turned his shining face toward him. Yes, even the smallest wound must be treated with full protocol. Alex nodded slowly. On Earth, for something like that, most people would just wash it with water, maybe put a cloth on it, and keep moving. You only worry about deep cuts or serious bleeding. The room went silent. Alien students stared at him, some with wide eyes, others with nervous twitching. Water? One whispered, just a cloth. Another repeated, horrified. The instructor's crystal body glowed with disapproval. Human student, Your people live in dangerous conditions. But here, in this academy, we follow proven methods. Speed without care is not medicine. It is chance." Alex did not argue. He simply nodded again. But his mind wandered. He remembered his childhood on Earth, where scraped knees were cleaned with soap, bigger cuts were covered with rough bandages made from whatever was nearby. There was no time for ceremony when danger lurked in every forest and sea. Survival came from action, not perfection. As the class ended, the alien students grouped together. Some glanced back at Alex, whispering again. Deathworlder ways are strange. He would risk infection for speed. Why did the academy allow one of them here? Alex heard it all, but kept walking. He carried his bag across the shining halls, looking out at the stars. He wondered if he would ever make friends here. He wondered if these aliens would ever understand why humans acted the way they did. What he did not know was that soon, very soon, the academy would face a real emergency. And in that moment, the whispers and doubts would change into something else entirely. For now, Alex remained the quiet human in a galaxy of careful healers. He smiled to himself, thinking of home. On Earth, danger had been a teacher, and pain had been a lesson. He had no idea how soon those lessons would be tested. The training habitat was built inside a vast dome, its walls glowing faintly with artificial light. Inside, the academy had created a small world for the students to practice real situations. There were rocky paths, uneven ground, crystal formations, and even flowing streams of mineral water. It was safe compared to the wild galaxies, but for students who had lived in carefully protected cities, even this felt dangerous. The alien students walked in groups, carrying scanners and medical kits. They spoke softly as they examined the environment. Each step was careful, measured, as if they feared the ground itself might betray them. Alex walked with them, hands in his pockets, eyes scanning the terrain. For him, the jagged rocks and uneven paths felt like a hike back home. Earth's forests and mountains had taught him balance long before this academy. He watched the others step nervously and thought about how different their lives had been. At the front of the group was Vrixel, a thin, insect-like student with delicate legs and bright green eyes. He was eager to impress the instructors, always rushing ahead to collect samples. "Careful, Vrixel," one of the feathered aliens warned. "The ground is unstable." But Vrixel chirped with excitement. "I must scan this crystal. It grows in rare shapes." He stepped closer to a sharp outcrop, his leg brushing against the glittering edge. In an instant, the crystal sliced through his joint. A sharp cry echoed in the dome. Vrixel fell to the ground, clutching his leg. Thick green fluid spilled out, pooling quickly on the rocky surface. The other students froze. Their eyes widened. Their voices rose in panic. "He is bleeding. Call the drones. Do not touch him. Wait for sterilized equipment." Some students backed away, afraid the fluid might spread infection. Others shouted conflicting instructions, their voices filled with fear. The group began to fall into chaos, but Alex did not hesitate. The moment he saw the green fluid gushing, his instincts took control. He ran forward, sliding down beside Vrixel. "Hold still," Alex shouted. His voice was firm, steady. Vrixel trembled, his thin body shaking. "It burns. I am losing strength." Alex tore a strip of cloth from his own uniform without thinking twice. He pressed it hard against the wound. The cloth darkened quickly, soaking with alien blood. But Alex did not flinch. "Pressure first," he muttered. "Always stop the bleeding," the alien students gasped. "Direct contact?" He touched the wound. "That is unsafe. He will infect him." But Alex ignored them. He wrapped more cloth tightly, pressing down until the flow slowed. Then, with quick hands, he pulled a strap from his backpack. He looped it around Vrixel's leg, above the wound, and twisted it tight to make a tourniquet. Vrixel let out a weak hiss of pain, but the bleeding slowed even more. His eyes fluttered open, filled with confusion and relief. "You saved me?" he whispered. Alex nodded, breathing steadily. Not yet. But you're stable. Just hold on until the drones get here. The alien students circled around, whispering in shock. Their eyes darted between Alex's bloody hands and Vrixel's slowly calming body. No protocol. One muttered. He broke every rule. Another whispered. But Vrixel is alive, a third admitted quietly. Minutes felt like hours, but finally the medical drones arrived. Sleek and silver, they floated down with glowing instruments. They scanned Vrixel, lifted him gently, and began proper sterilization procedures. The bleeding was under control, thanks to Alex's rough methods. The instructor arrived soon after, his crystalline body glowing with alarm. What happened here? One of the feathered aliens pointed at Alex. The human acted before the drones. He pressed fabric against the wound. He tied a strap around Vrixel's leg. The instructor turned to Alex. Is this true? Alex stood slowly, wiping his hands on the rocks. His uniform was torn, stained with green fluid. His expression was calm. Yes, he was losing too much blood. If I waited, he could have died. I did what humans always do. We stop the bleeding first. Everything else comes after. The instructor's voice rang like glass struck by stone. That was reckless. That was unsanitary. But it worked, Alex replied simply. The aliens murmured again. They could not deny what they had seen. Vrixel, who had looked close to death, was alive. His breathing was steadier. The drones confirmed his vital signs were strong. The instructor stared at Alex for a long moment. Then he spoke, slow and deliberate. Deathworlder ways are dangerous, but sometimes danger saves lives. Alex gave a small shrug. On Earth, if you wait for perfect conditions, you don't survive. You do what you can, with what you have, as fast as possible. That's the only way. The alien students exchanged uneasy glances. Some still looked horrified. Others looked thoughtful. For the first time, doubt entered their minds. Maybe the Deathworlder's strange methods held some truth. As the drones carried Vrixel away, the group walked back in silence. Whispers spread across the academy. Everyone was talking about the human. He used cloth from his own clothes. He tied a band around the leg and stopped the bleeding. No one else moved. Only the Deathworlder acted. That night, Alex sat alone in his dorm room, staring at the stars through the window. His hands still smelled faintly of alien blood. He thought about Vrixel's wide, frightened eyes and how close he had come to dying. Alex sighed. Reckless, huh? Maybe. But back home, that's just survival. He didn't know it yet, but the academy had changed that day. The alien students could not unsee what they had witnessed. The Deathworlder had shown them something their protocols had not prepared for: speed, instinct, and the courage to act when others froze. And in the days to come, that lesson would shake the foundation of everything they believed about medicine. The academy was restless after the accident in the training dome. News traveled quickly in a place where hundreds of species studied side by side. By the next day, every corridor buzzed with whispers. They say the human tied his own clothing to the wound he ignored. Sterilization. He saved Vrixel's life before the drones even arrived. Students, who had never seen Alex before, now looked at him with wide eyes. Some looked curious, others suspicious. A few even kept their distance, as if he carried something dangerous. Alex noticed the stares, but kept walking, head high, pretending not to care. Deep inside, though, he wondered how much longer he would be welcome here. The official review of the accident came sooner than expected. The medical council, a group of senior instructors and healers, called the students to the grand lecture hall. The walls shimmered like crystal water, reflecting the serious faces of the professors. Alex sat near the back, his hands resting quietly on the table. Vrixel had been treated fully by the drones and was already recovering. But his absence made the hall feel emptier. The lead instructor's voice rang clear. We are here to discuss the incident during training. A student was injured. One among you acted outside protocol. His glowing eyes shifted toward Alex, the human. Dozens of alien students turned their heads at once. The weight of their stares pressed against Alex like a physical force. The instructor continued. This action was reckless. No sterilization, no preparation, no safe barrier. By all standards, it was a violation of medical rules. The aliens murmured in agreement, some nodding their heads. But before the echo faded, the instructor raised a crystal hand. And yet, it saved a life. The hall fell silent. The instructor brought up a projection of the drone scans. The images showed the wound at the moment of injury, fluid pouring out rapidly. Then another scan showed the bleeding slowed, stabilized by Alex's crude band and strap. Without that pressure, the loss might have been fatal before the drones even arrived. According to our analysis, the instructor said slowly, the human's actions prevented collapse. If he had waited for drones, Vrixel would not have survived. The murmurs returned. But this time, they sounded different, confused, unsure. Finally, Alex stood. His voice was calm but firm. I didn't come here to break your rules, but where I'm from, if you wait for the perfect method, you die. On Earth, injuries happen fast, and you don't always have drones or equipment. You use whatever you have, cloth, straps, even fire if you need to sterilize. It's not pretty, but it works. Gasps echoed through the hall. The aliens could hardly imagine such brutal improvisation. Fire to clean tools. Cloth to stop bleeding? It sounded savage. Yet Vrixel was alive, and the fact could not be denied. One timid voice rose from the seats. A feathered student asked, Human, do your people often face such danger? Alex nodded. Every day. Our planet is full of sharp rocks, poisonous plants, predators with teeth longer than your arms. Children learn to treat cuts before they can even read. Survival is our teacher. The students looked at each other. Some trembled at the thought of such a world. At that moment, the hall doors opened and Vrixel entered, leaning on a support frame but walking steadily. His green eyes shone with energy as he looked around the room. Enough debate, Vrixel said loudly. His voice was thin but sharp. The human saved me. Without him, I would not stand here today. The hall erupted in whispers again. Vrixel stepped forward, placing a thin hand on Alex's shoulder. I owe him my life. His ways may look wild to you, but they are strong. Stronger than fear, stronger than waiting. The instructors fell quiet. The students stared. For the first time, the division between alien protocol and human instinct seemed smaller. In the days that followed, a new decision was made. The Academy would not abandon its careful methods. But it would open a new class: emergency survival medicine, human techniques. Alex was asked to demonstrate. At first, he felt awkward, standing at the front of the medical hall. Rows of alien students watched him nervously. Their hands held clean tools and shining gels. Yet they wanted to see the strange ways of the Deathworlder. Alex smiled faintly. All right, let's start with basics. Imagine someone is bleeding badly and you don't have drones or gel. What do? The aliens hesitated. No one answered. You stop the bleeding, Alex said simply. He picked up a strip of fabric, tied it around a dummy limb, and pressed down. Pressure saves lives. Doesn't matter if it's cloth, leaf, or your own hand. Do it fast. The students leaned closer, some frowning, others nodding slowly. Next, Alex showed how to make a splint with sticks and tape, how to clean a wound with alcohol, how to close a deep cut with rough stitches. Every demonstration drew gasps. Some aliens winced at the harshness, but they could not look away. These methods look simple, Alex explained, but on Earth, simple keeps you alive. If you have better tools, use them. But if you don't, this is enough. One crystal-bodied student raised a hand. But what if the wound becomes infected? Alex shrugged. Then you fight infection later. First, you keep the patient alive long enough to treat it. Slowly, the alien students began to practice. Their claws and tendrils tied rough bandages. Their hands pressed down on dummy wounds. Awkward at first, but steadier with time. Vrixel watched proudly from the side. "Do not fear the humans' ways," he told his classmates. "They may look rough, but they are born from a world that never forgives weakness. If you learn them, you will never stand helpless again." By the end of the week, the academy looked different. The halls echoed not just with careful protocols, but with new sounds, fabric tearing, straps tightening, students shouting, "Hold pressure." As they trained with human methods, Alex stood at the edge of one practice hall, watching the aliens copy what he had shown them. A quiet smile touched his face. He had not come to change the galaxy. He had only wanted to learn. Yet here he was, teaching lessons written by Earth itself. For the first time since arriving, Alex felt like he belonged. Not as a curiosity, not as a Deathworlder legend, but as a fellow student one who had something real to give. As he left the hall that evening, Vrixel limped beside him. "Brother of survival," Vrixel said warmly. "That is what you are."
To me?
"To all of us," Alex chuckled softly. "I'm just human." Vrixel shook his head. "Yes, and that is enough." Outside the dome, the stars burned bright. Somewhere among them, other species lived safe lives, never knowing the lessons of Earth. But here, in the academy, those lessons had taken root. The Deathworlder had shown them that survival was not always about perfection. Sometimes it was about courage, speed, and the will to act. And from that day on, no student at the Interstellar Medical Academy would ever forget the human way of first aid.